We give weight to thoughts that are not you, man. They're just thoughts. And there's so many random thoughts. If I listen to my thoughts, the whole fucking planet would be on fire. Okay? Like
Word.
I would just burn it all down by accident, impulsively, because some part of the mammalian part of my brain is trying to protect itself, and it thinks the way to do that is to light the building on fire.
Well, yeah, thank you for hopping onto this. I know you've had a busy day, and I'm grateful that you could cut some time out for us. Awesome. Yeah, this is Samco Leadership Podcast, and our whole philosophy and ethos is the importance and the priority of the human, right? In the age of AI and technology, my belief and my thesis is that that's not going anywhere, and I think that that's wonderful, and I think that it's flawed thinking to believe that the human modified technology rather than technology running itself isn't going to outpace like talent versus skill, right? And so I'm just curious to chat with leaders, sales leaders, communication leaders, whatever leaders, and get their pitch on leadership, communication, technology, all that sort of stuff. And I'm really excited to talk to you because you have such a pertinent place in my personal story, and sometimes it's interesting that that is where leadership counts. It's not these big grand things. It's like somebody personal, a story that might not otherwise be known. And I know we've chatted about this, but you and I met 13 years ago now at a leadership camp, and I didn't even know that you had influenced my life. You just stopped in for the night. You came, you said some stuff about what you've been doing. You had been through the leadership camp years before. And in that moment, it changed everything about my trajectory and where I could go in my life. And I didn't know you from Adam. And then 13 years later, we lose touch for that whole period of time. And all of a sudden, we get reconnected through some family and mutual acquaintances and reconnected. And I was able to actually share that story with you. And I think that's the power of leadership and being there for people is something that if whatever hadn't happened in those convening months, a little over a year ago, you may not have ever known that impact that you had on me. And so I thank you for that, and that's why I'm so excited to talk to you here today, because I know you've been doing big things in the space in between, and I guess I'm hoping to start off with what did that space in between look like? I know you went out with Git Assist for a while. You sold a few things, and you scaled Git Assist quite large. And maybe we could start there and just a little bit of intro and background on you.
100%. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on today. And then also, what a pleasure to be useful and to find out that I had such positive benefit in somebody's life, which really, in my opinion, is what leadership's all about. Giving space and allowing space for other people to grow, and just helping with that. So my journey, similar to yours, was some male leadership that stepped in and showed me how to build my life, how to handle life on life's terms. And then from there, I got an opportunity to work with some great people. I started my career in sales right when we left that camp, and immediately started building teams. In my first 90 days in sales, which is a door-to-door company, I built myself a little 11-man sales team, men and women, actually mostly women, which a lot of my teams end up being mostly women with a couple closers in there. From there, I decided I wanted to start my own company right away and learn some hard lessons. We made it about 6 months, decided we needed more experience, and got brought into a TV show that was just a lot of fun. So came in and actually launched Remodel It with Her Television in Canada and expanded up to Edmonton. We sold out the production on that. We sent some camera crews over to Italy to watch stone get blown out of a quarry, all the way through to local renovations and working with cool companies like SIS and some of these other big firms here in Calgary. And so that was really cool. Walked around with a CTV logo on the shoulder for a couple of years, feeling full of the swag. And from there, I wanted to find out how good I was. I thought I was pretty good at sales, and I wanted to find out just how good I was. And somebody recommended going to work for one of the big three car dealerships, whether it's Ford, Dodge, or Chevy, for an opportunity to be compared to 300 other salespeople. And so I did 9 months working for Ford, quickly rose to the top, both in my office and actually took the office of one of my biggest competitors at the time, and moved up until I was in this magazine, this leaderboard magazine. Kind of saw where I sat, was very happy with that. Left and got recruited into GetAssist. And then GetAssist, I mean, for those that don't know it, it was an app, a SaaS product that I walked in and was the third person in the door on. And I started as a sales manager. And I quickly built and scaled a straight cold call, cold set and close team. No advertising, no lead generation, straight outbound all day long. And we quickly put 10 and then 20 and 30 and 40 reps across Alberta. We quickly expanded into BC and into Manitoba. We quickly expanded from there into Ontario. By the time it was said and done, 5 years later, we had locations all across Canada. Had a really big team. By the time we finished that scale, we had 136 reps just on my team alone, doing outbound sales and a management team of about 13. So I had an opportunity to not just apply some of the leadership skills I had learned both in the military and of course in the leadership camp, but I really learned most of the leadership skills that I really know now in that process. Making mistakes, of course, learning the different personalities, finding all the ways not to do something. And so did that for 8 years and shook hands, got some shares, and moved on to start ATP Sales and Marketing. And since then, we've been building companies. We've got 3 of our own now. ATP, the Firm Collaborative, and a kids storytelling robot for AI that is going to have its official launch by the end of this year. So just excited.
Yes, very excited for that. My kids love it.
Yeah, awesome, good. And that's Your Neverending Story is the name we're starting with in beta. We'll have that available at yourneverendingstory.com. And the site is up now. The beta is on. Get on for free if you hear this before we open.
Awesome. And so I'm curious, like, with GetAssist, what are some of the, like, you obviously had some high-end communication skills at that point and closing skills, and I'm curious what allowed you in your retrospect to be able to take something like that and, like, no lead generation, just full outbound calls and scale so rapidly like that. What allowed you to be so effective with people?
Yeah, so I would say that the thing that helped me be successful, get training reps and getting them to believe in the vision, was not just addressing the work stuff that we were doing. It was like, listen, come work for us. We're going to show you how to grind. We're going to show you how to build something. You can be part of something exciting. But I'll also talk to you about boundaries and communication and make sure you're in a healthy living space. We'll also make sure you got a nice pair of dress shoes and pants and a shirt. We'll take care of you if you join the team, and we'll help you get your feet under you. We also did a daily training, and some people might think it's excessive, but in every office that we had, I insisted on a daily training where we train on 5 different communication skills. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every day for about half an hour to an hour, and that gave people the opportunity to actually be growing and learning. And I found that people would retain if they were learning and growing. I mean, if they were getting better every day and they could feel like they were getting better every day, they weren't leaving, they weren't going anywhere. And so that was a big part of it, the retention, being able to keep people, because we actually had their back. They had ours in return, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like, if I can paraphrase there, it's like it wasn't anything about what you or your team were saying on those calls. It was more about who you and your team were and who you created and nurtured them to be.
Yeah, 100%. We had a lot of people buy the product that told us blatantly they weren't going to use it, but they wanted to support what we were doing. And so that just tells you that the story and conversation that we have had with them, the relating and the relationship building that we had with them, obviously must have worked, because why else are they buying a membership? I can't tell you how many business owners said, this is great to see something like this come out of Alberta, come out of Canada, we want on, and they'd pay for it. They'd let that membership run for 5 years and they'd never even turn it on. And so that's, that you've obviously told them the right things, and they think we're good people, and they think we're doing something that's good for the community and for the country. And GetAssist is doing something that's good for the community and the country. It's connecting communities and helping us hire micro and very small service providers that's as you know, that's so needed, right? Sometimes you don't need the biggest painter in the city. You just need a guy with a paintbrush that knows what he's doing, or a small crew, and Get Assist is the place for that.
Okay, it's a like a services networking hub.
Yeah, you can make a request. It was called Get Assist because you could make a request for any type of service you needed, and we would send that out to your community, so around you, and we'd go hit like 5 or 10 different painters in the area, and before you could see their profiles, they would read it and see if they wanted to reply. So you would only get replies from people who wanted the work. You didn't have to talk to 10 people who didn't want the work. And so it worked really easy. Push notification out. You get 2 or 3 responses. You could look through them, check them out online. The due diligence is still on the customer to hire the right people, but you could pick one and you knew that he was available on Monday and that he could paint your upstairs and downstairs, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm curious, like, so you grab your list from where, whatever your sources are, and you start calling down this list, and somebody picks up the phone. It's a strange number. It's hey, it's Tyler from Get Assist here, and it's like as soon as you hear something like that, this is a salesman. Like you have 5 to 10 seconds to really like grab them and keep them on the phone there to be able to actually develop some relationship. Like tell me a little bit about that skill and what your, I don't know, what your hacks are, or what your what's behind the scenes going on there.
100%. Well, that first 5 seconds is everything, which means it's about tone and relating and having a little bit of fun. So I would generally phone people and just start with, hey, how's it going? And they'll tell you how's it going and ask you how it's going. And then I've got all kinds of uncle or dad jokes. And so I'm usually responding with, if I was doing any better, there'd be 2 of me. And you get a little giggle out of the customer, or some kind of icebreaker. And we really taught that. You need some kind of icebreaker, something to have a one-on-one conversation before we got into a presentation. You haven't really earned the right to pitch people in the first 5 seconds. So, that's where you would just introduce yourself, have some kind of levity, some kind of joke, and then get into what you're doing very quickly. We would move from the introduction into 3 questions very quickly to find out, should I be pitching this customer, right? If somebody is retiring, if somebody is not looking for more business, if somebody, if there's these things that make them not a fit, they don't need to be pitched by you for 10 minutes because you didn't ask questions, and you don't need to waste 10 minutes of your time. So we would literally go from that introduction to qualifying questions, find out if it was worth a presentation, give someone a 30 to 40 second pitch, and then ask for a meeting. We want to talk to you. We want to show you something. And then we'd book the meeting.
Okay, so then this would be all B2B.
B2B, yes. We did some B2C as well to put people on the app, but that's a little less aggressive, right? The B2B, when you decide we've got 130 industries, service-based industries that are generally hired, for example, and you're in a city like Calgary that's spread out over, 50 kilometers around it, not really, but, it feels like it's sometimes getting around the city. That means you need to find plumbers in each quadrant of the city, and you got to have more than one. So we've got to go out and we've got to secure ourselves 10 plumbers, 10 electricians, 10 roofers, lawyers, doctors. And so we've got to move quick, and we need to be direct and fairly aggressive with people. And we explain that to people in the conversation all the time. Look, I'm only looking for 3 in the northeast corner, so, it's either a fit or it's not a fit. We'll send you some information, we'll get you into a meeting. If it's not a fit for you, we're going to call 10 other people. We're going to have 5 other meetings, and somebody's going to be joining by Friday at this time, right? And so just being upfront with the customer about that as well. It's not a forever offer. We're looking for 4, we're moving on.
Awesome. And I'm curious as well, like how much of your phone conversations and a little bit like spread out, like how that's evolved over time, like how much of it is scripted, maybe percentage wise, and how much of it is just going with the flow?
Well, you're going to love this. So I've always believed and trained that we're not scripting, we have processes. So I use a 5-step process that I teach. Sometimes it's 6 or 7 steps, just depending on the business when we get to learn the business. But we'll have a 5 to 7 step process that you're going to follow so that when a rep gets lost, they know where to go next. But we're not going to actually provide them with a script. We're going to teach them how to have that sales conversation. And so the introduction can be different every single time. So you're not going to be able to put it on a script. Your short story, we've got a list of questions that are relevant, but of course the plumber and the doctor, we have different questions. And so it was more about having a process that start to finish a rep could follow, that you could teach, so that someone actually knew how to sell. a lot of telemarketing centers, a lot of call centers, and we were not a telemarketing center, by the way. We did all forms of B2B, from telemarketing to walk-ins to networking to LinkedIn to Instagram to everything. If there was a way to sell, we were ringing that doorbell. So, and whatever a rep was better at, we would let them do. But what we would focus on is teaching people how to have a sales conversation versus just providing a script and saying, read off the script. Sounds more natural. When they get good, they get better, right? They're not just now able to get a sale, they get good at sales. And that's the thing. If we can train and dial in some rock stars, right? But turn some B and C players into some A and B players and get them earning some good money for themselves. It's how you build yourself a 100-man team. That's how you build yourself a rock star team, is you help people develop into the beasts that they can be, you know?
So it sounds like doing something like that, scaling up to that size, is a little bit less about scaling the company, although that's not insignificant, and it's more about almost staff retention or team retention.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got lucky. I was in business development. I am in business development most of the time when I'm working with a company, so I don't have to worry as much about things like fulfillment. We want to have a good relationship between ops and sales. Of course, to drive revenue successfully, you need to be able to fulfill with everything that we sell. But we were lucky enough to just have to focus on the revenue generation and the development of the network to make sure we had the right trades, the right businesses, the right people. And so we didn't have to worry too much about much other than having a successful team and having the right businesses to service the clients. So it's a lot of interviewing, a lot of learning about the trades. I mean, to be able to teach this kind of thing, you've got to become an expert in it. To be able to sell any product, you need to become an expert in your field. And so that requires studying. I see too many people joining a car sales job for the first time. They don't spend any time learning about car sales. It's 2026 right now. This stuff has been figured out for decades, for literal decades. Most of the stuff that I teach in sales was developed by Zig Ziglar, Jeffrey Gitomer, guys from back in the day. Studied their books, I learned their methods. I found the one or two things that worked for what we were doing. I continued to do that and then put that together into the programs and processes we have today. But I'm not out there inventing how to sell. I'm just defining it, putting it into a training program, and then teaching it to reps in a way they understand, where they don't have to necessarily go watch the $10,000 or 10,000 hours worth of footage and podcasts that I did, right?
Yeah, like eliminating the methods, boiling down to the principles, finding the principles with confluence across multiple sources, and then finding a way to ironically, or perhaps not, to communicate that effectively to the team so that they can communicate their message effectively to the customer.
You got it. And if you mix a little bit of personal development in there and personal growth along with the business development and business growth, we're going to teach you how to be a salesperson, but also let's just talk about how to be a better human being. Let's just talk about how to burden more responsibility, how to do things that challenge us, how to have those hard conversations, not just with a client for the purpose of closing a sale, but also like when you get home with your parents or your girlfriend or your partner. Having boundaries with clients. You know, one of the techniques we taught, one of the impulses we taught was importance in yourself. You know, to the company, your time is really all that matters. We don't really care if you waste a little bit of some prospect's time in some foreign city that never buys from us. That's irrelevant to us. We're only paying you. So your time's important. So, you know, don't just act like it, but say it. Tell the customer that. And so you get people used to defending themselves like that and standing up for themselves. And then customers do respect that and they buy more product. But then let's apply those same principles back to, you know, dealing with our siblings and our parents and our families. And so the communication skills that, you know, that I've learned in my personal journey have been the skills that drive retention and growth in the business journey. And I can't take, like I said, I can't take a ton of credit for that. That came from Jeffrey Gitomer, and that came from the Wolf of Wall Street, and that came Jordan Belfort, and that came from Zig Ziglar, and it came from Brendon Burchard and Tony Robbins. I mean, I studied these guys and the things that they were teaching. I took these courses, and then just finding a way to teach that to somebody in not so many words, because you know, you got some 24-year-old guy that wants to be a salesperson, and you're trying to teach them how to sell, and we don't have time to go through a 10-year growth journey right now. We need you to be able to sell by Tuesday next week. And
Yeah,
so
I need
just
rent
kind of
next month.
yeah, right. So it came down to meeting people where they were at. Right. I really liked my uncle at one point from the military. He's a warrant officer in the Canadian Forces, and he came and worked with us for a bit. And he watched me in some meetings, and he pulled me aside one day and he said, "I see what you're doing." And I said, "What am I doing?" And he goes, "You're just mediating." He goes, "You're mediating relationships between departments, between people, between students or sales staff and knowledge." He's like, between clients and sales guys. He goes, "You're just mediating, right? You're just helping people get there." And I love that because we're not out here trying to trick anyone or manipulate anyone or do anything like that. We're out here trying to help. And if you go out and you adamantly try and help, it's gonna work, right? It's gonna work. So
Yeah, yeah, you get back what you give. So if you feed out positivity and benefit, typically it gets fed back, and that's
100%.
something that I learned a long time ago. A great mentor of mine said, "Stop trying to get what you want." He said, "Go help 10 people get what they want, and if you do that successfully, God will then give you what you want." But he said it doesn't happen the other way around.
100%. I like that. And my business, according to Plan Sales and Marketing, our business plan is to support the growth of small businesses. And then we started the Firm Collaborative, and the business plan there is to lower the small business failure rate. We figure instead of focusing on scaling our company, if we focus on saving and helping as many small businesses as possible stay in business, then that will just compound over time. And that's what will build up our firm. That's what will build up our company. And so, don't focus on just your own stuff. Focus on helping in your community. I mean, there's a lot. You're as big of a part of the community as anybody else. Like, what you do matters, right? It matters that you're honest. It matters that you're upfront with people. It matters that you work hard, and people forget that, right? So we've got to do that, and that's what we do. That's what you do in your community already today. And I'd like to think that's what I do. Sometimes I'm a little hard on myself, quite critical of myself, don't have a lot of self-compassion. But luckily I was out last night with a group of guys who've seen me on stage and that I was paid to coach, and they let me know, all night long. And it's nice to get that recognition, and it feels good. And sometimes you forget that, we're out there doing the right things, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and do you think, like, you've talked a lot about bringing professional development over into personal development with your teams and scaling retention through that. And I'm curious what your perspectives are. We're moving a little bit more metaphysically now on if you're a sales guy and you're at the top of your game and you've done professional development the whole time, but at home you are yelling at your wife and treating your kids like crap. Like, do you think that fixing that, like, how is that connected to potentially your current ceiling in where you are professionally? Does it matter?
100%. I think it has so much to do with it. I love that you said that. I use an example all the time. I say, well, if you're at home fighting with your partner and screaming at each other before you come to work, just how in the game do you think you can be? How good can you be today? Would you be able to be better if you guys were supporting each other on the way out the door? And the answer is yes. And you don't get to control other people either. So really, it comes down to you being better on the way out the door, and making sure that you're in situations that are healthy for you and taking care of yourself. So I think it's everything. Obviously, it doesn't replace hard work, and I wouldn't say skill, because I believe anybody can learn these skills. But it doesn't replace that. But I mean, it makes all the difference. Me in a good mood, I'm a force to be reckoned with. Me in a bad headspace, I might not even be there sometimes, right? And I try and show that leadership and always show up and always do the right thing. But I also have learned to know that if I'm in the wrong headspace, it's better to remove myself and say, I can't really add positively to this right now, this relationship, this partnership, whatever it is. I'll be back, and I'll be back on Monday, and I will be able to add when I come back. And so I think that applies so much to how successful you're going to be, or at least it did for me, right? And the reason it did for me is because then I'd be in the right headspace to be able to handle any kind of problem. And I'll tell you, there's no problems that are going to stop me. There's nothing that's going to stop me. When I'm focused and I'm taking care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and I'm showing up on my game ready to go and I'm connected to my purpose, you just can't stop me. It doesn't matter what you throw at me. You could bankrupt the company. I'll have a new one spun up tomorrow. Like, let's go. We're not slowing down for nothing. And so, not everybody's that way, but for me, that's everything.
And so I think I'm picking this up, but maybe just to clarify, like if you had a blank slate 18-year-old guy you were mentoring to do whatever he wanted to do. He could want to be a rocket engineer. He could want to be a sales guy. And you could only feed him either personal development books or professional development books. Which would you choose and why?
Yeah, at 18 and 19, yeah, personal development all the way. Like, learn how to deal with yourself, learn how to deal with your emotions, your family, love, money, and personal development has got to involve these things like money and these things that like cause you stress and are real things you have to deal with in life. I would say professional development is part of personal development, but like one of 7 things, right? It's important that you have a relationship with your peers and your community, and it's important that you volunteer and you support and help out. It's important that you have a good relationship with food and that you know how to, energize yourself and sleep. Like, oh my God, sleep. Like, just get 7 hours a day of sleep and watch your performance go through the roof. Okay, literal washing of the brain, right? Like, it's so important that you take care of yourself. Actually, I will give some serious credit here to a couple mentors of mine, including my father. One of the lessons that took me the longest to learn was this very simple motto by him and my father and Terry Gaynor. And they would say, well, make sure, I know you're new to scaling companies, make sure you eat, sleep, and walk to lunch. And I was like, we don't have time to walk to lunch, right? Like, we gotta run to lunch. What are you talking about? Eat and sleep. Like, who has time for that? And it took me years and years and years to understand, like, if you're going to be doing this for 20 years, if you're going to come build businesses with us and you're going to be in here long term, it's always going to be this grindy. It's always going to be this stressful. It's never going to go the way you think it's going to go. So if you're rested and you've eaten properly and you take your lunch breaks and whatever other breaks you need and you make that part of your professional work, you'll be able to actually function at this level, because not everybody can function at this level, right? Brings me to one of my other quotes that I say on a lot of our UGC content and on Minding the Gap. I think it takes 7 years to build a successful business at least, and it has nothing to do with the business. It's going to take you 7 years to become a business owner, right? To learn how to handle this stress and to get through the trials and tribulations and actually find out you can handle this, because not everybody can handle this. And that's okay. And if you want to become somebody who can handle it, personal development, let's go, right? You can become whoever you want. So if you can't handle it today, get in there and learn. And some people say the best thing about growing a business is you're actually growing yourself. And I'd say they're right, because you're forced to self-develop to be successful in business. But like, save yourself some time. Go to our Instagram, download the Brendon Burchard affiliate link, get a 7-day free trial, sign up for Brendon Burchard High Performance Habits through Growth Day, and just work on personal development. And then you don't have to learn by fire over here. You can build the business and be working on yourself at the same time. There's no reason not to do both.
And that's probably where most of these, we talked about ATP and the business failure rate, and I don't know if you have updated numbers, but my stats are 80% in the first 5 years and 80% in the second 5 years, which adds out to like 94% failure rate or something, 94, 96 over 10 years.
Yeah.
And like, is what you see in the work that you do, is that typically attributed to people focusing too much on the infinite grind and never, quote, having time for personal development or self-care?
Oh my God. Like, you just hit it on the head, Cyril. Like, I've got friends in my life right now that are working as hard as I have ever seen, or as hard as I've ever worked. I've been there. I did that. I had a 6-year period where I grinded so hard I ended up in the hospital due to cortisol. And it was purely just too much stress, working too hard, caring too much going on. I mean, you've got to have some kind of balance. And I love these people who say, oh, if you want to be the best in the world, you can't have balance. Bullshit, right? The top guys in the world have balance. That's how they got there. And if you look into Tim Burch's books, Tools of the Titans, you'll see that the one thing that all of the Titans have in common is some kind of daily mindfulness technique where we're actually slowing down and moving with intention and focus. So I would say that yes, I think that is a huge part of why people cannot grow businesses. Definitely that in business development, definitely that in finances, definitely that in taxes. I mean, there's a lot to this game. And if you focus on yourself and becoming a business owner, then none of that's going to stop you, right? When we started Get Assist, I sat in a room with 8 of my best friends. I recruited my 8 closest friends in the sales world, and we put them to work. And we sat around one day, and everyone wanted to know about shares, and fair enough, right? Take care of yourself. They want to know about shares. When do we get them? How does this work? All this. And somebody said, Tyler, how come you're never asking about this stuff? And I said, I'm here for the person I'm going to be when I walk out in 6 years, because then I'll be able to go make whatever I want. And, I didn't realize at the time how true that would be. I walked out of Get Assist after 8 years. My decision, shook hands on the way out, positive sentiment on both sides. And I was able to conceptualize and come up with my own business. And we've been running ever since. And it worked so well, we were able to start a second business with some partnerships to scale out some larger projects. And then, we started building side projects. And I've got the life I want to live. And we're growing every day. And I'm still on growth day, growing every day. Brennan Bouchard, growth day, go there, try it. It's huge. And becoming more of a professional every day, learning new skills. So back to it's everything. I think that's why businesses fail. I think that's where you should start when you're young. I think if you find yourself in trouble, do the Jordan Peterson thing. Clean your room, go through the piles, start thinking about how you're screwing up your life and what you could stop doing immediately and what you need to start doing, and just, small step at a time, 1-2%.
Awesome. So I'm wanting to maybe circle back a little bit here, and you've touched a couple times on history in the military, and I'm curious, like your experience there, like what that grew in you, and like elements of leadership that have been consistent through military and sales and like civilian life.
Yeah, interesting. So I had a very quick stint in the military. So I just enough to become a soldier and finish my courses and get placed. And then I got out, and I wanted a little bit more freedom than that kind of life could provide. But in the military, you learned that your limits were not really your limits. I mean, you thought you could only run so far. Well, you get yourself a good instructor, and you find out you can run a lot further than you thought you could. That body won't stop. And you found out that you could operate on almost no sleep, and you found out that you could just do things that you didn't think you could do, including learning things you didn't know you could learn. I know all about rockets and F-18s and circuit board electronics, and that's not something I expected to have an understanding of, but I do. And so the things that kind of came across were hard work, dedication, not giving up. We said that's the goal. We're going to get there no matter what. But also SOPs. So how do you get a bunch of alcoholic 18-year-olds to fix an F-18, right? And that's standard operating procedures, very clearly well-defined standard operating procedures. And so pulling that into the business development space, where when we need things done, we document them properly, and we give step-by-step instructions with photos as simple as we possibly can, multiple places somebody can come back and see it, and just understanding the amount of effort that goes into learning and the amount of stuff that's lost in communication. And the military really showed you how to make sure everybody knew this to a certain standard. And it wasn't some guy at the front yelling at you. That might have been happening, but that wasn't how they made sure that everybody learned things to a certain standard. It was clearly defining the standard, putting it in writing, and making sure that we had checks and balances to make sure you had read it and you understood it and you were applying it exactly the way we needed you to. So we've applied that into sales and sales training, and that comes down to everything from listening to phone calls and having procedures and processes, but also having procedures and processes for review, so that somebody sits down with you occasionally and goes, okay, are you following these 5 steps? Are you using the bouncing techniques? Are you doing this, right? And sorry, I just noticed my battery's getting low even though this thing's plugged in. Sorry about that.
I had that just the other day. I got my power bar under my desk, and I stand at it, and I was just messing around and I just stepped on the whole thing, turned everything off, didn't even notice.
Yeah, well, I'll watch this. If it gets any lower, I'll have to mess with it. But yeah, just bringing that back to making sure you have a solid process for a review and making sure everyone sticks to a standard operating procedure. And we need you to learn these skills. You know, these are the skills you need to be successful here. So we're going to teach them to you. And in the process, if you drink the Kool-Aid, not everyone does, but if you drink the Kool-Aid, we'll also help you build and develop yourself in your personal life. And not everybody wants that. Some sales guys walk in, they don't need it, they don't want it, they're happy how they are. That's great as long as they're good people and they're honest. Not to rip on an entire industry, but I used to say we don't hire car salesmen, and if we do, we retrain them from the ground up. I don't like the manipulation side of sales. I'm a good person. I believe in God and a higher power. I believe I have to do things properly or it'll come back on me, and that means persuading instead of manipulating. You know.
Yeah, and that's I think one of the topics that I was hoping to touch on today is what, in your perspective, is the difference between influence and manipulation?
Yeah, cool. Somebody defined it once in a way that stuck with me. Not necessarily my definition. It stuck. It's pretty close. Right. Intention. What are we doing? Are we just trying to make everybody buy our product? Are we just tricking people here? Are we just trying to manipulate people into purchasing our product? Or are we offering a service where we're asking questions to find out if they're a fit for our product and our product could help, and then showing them that they should get on the product and it'll help them? And at that point, if somebody needs a push, then it's a good push. You should be pushing them. And you know what? And look at that. I got to give that credit right back to car sales, because that's where I learned that. And I actually have a great story if we got a second about that. So
Absolutely.
So I go to work at Kamloops Ford. I actually fly and move to this town because they're opening a new Ford dealership. And so I fly out there, I interview, they're just opening up. They offer me a position. I'm like, great, let's see where we sit, line ourselves up. And I get out there and I get to work. I don't sit still well, so everyone else is sitting around waiting for ups, and I'm hammering the phones and walking into businesses in the area. So I did quite well. I made myself 17 grand take home in about 3 months. And for a young guy just getting into car sales, that was great money. And over the next 3 months, I decide I'm going to buy myself an F-150, and I'm going to sell it to myself. And so my boss, he goes, okay, you know what? There's going to be a lot of learning opportunities here. And I was like, okay, great. So, let's pick one. So I go online and I pick one, and it's the perfect one. It's exactly what I want. It's blue on the outside, black and red on the inside, stick shift in the middle. Like, it's exactly what I want in a truck. But there's only one left. And so now you got to learn about shipping. Are you going to go get it, or are you going to ship it? What are you going to do? And I say, yeah, I'll go get it. So it's like, okay. So I get on a bus and I go get my new F-150, and I drive back in it, and I'm smoking cigarettes in it, and I'm blasting my music like it's mine. I already feel like I own this truck. And I get back to the dealership, and I'm sending pictures to my friends and family. I mean, I am like, look at my new truck. Everything in my head is, this is my new truck. I own it. And the boss comes over and he says, hey, Tyler, here's the paperwork for your new F-150. Just sign that, throw it back on my desk, and it's yours. And he walks away. And a couple days later, he goes, hey, Tyler, can I get that paperwork? And I went, yeah, I'll get that. I'll get that signed tonight. And a few days later, he goes, hey, Tyler, get that paperwork? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's right after lunch. Right? Yeah, I'll do it right after lunch. And this kept happening, And after about 2 weeks, he's laughing. He's grinning every time he sees me because I'm dodging him almost. And which I've been driving the truck for 2 weeks. I'm sending pictures to my friends and family. It's my truck. My dog lives in this back seat already. And finally, he walks in my office one day, slams the piece of paper down, goes, look, I'm going to knock off another $500. You're going to sign right here. Puts an X on the paper, spins it around, slides it to me, hands me a pen. And I go, oh, okay. And I sign it, and I own the truck. And he goes, did you just spend 55 grand to save $500? And it was like, no, I didn't. That doesn't make sense. What happened here? And as I looked into it and I understood it, what I understood is that a $55,000 purchase for a 25-year-old was just a big purchase. I just wasn't ready to make that purchase. It didn't matter that I was selling it to myself. I knew I got a good deal. I sold the truck to myself. I mean, we got a good, we got a good rate. We got a good price. I could see the invoices. So what happened? And it's a big move. I had a lot of uncertainty. I need someone to push me through the sale. And so understanding that with customers, and then being ethical about how you're selling so that you feel good about pushing people through it. I mean, you're working with a small business who needs an ad campaign, who's been stuck for years, and if you don't push them, they're not going to start that ad campaign. And if they don't start that ad campaign, they're not going to have lead gen. If you don't have a lead gen, they're probably not going to stay in business. And I've seen it before. I've seen customers that have not been pushed by sales rep, and then I'm talking to them later, and they're moving out of their building. They can't afford the rent, or they're moving into a home office. They're changing this, they're changing that. And it's like, really, what he needed was for you to ask him the right questions, find a product that would help him, and then help push him through the purchase, lead him through it, push him through it, so that we could support him and start growing his company. Right? He's uncertain. He doesn't know how to do it. He needs leadership from the salesperson. And I guess that brings us back to the whole conversation, right? Is leadership from that salesperson. So manipulation would be going in there to take people's money, and persuasion would be going in there and leading through the right people through the purchase of the product to help and support their business.
Dang, man, that story hit very deep, especially with the follow-up, with the business to business aspect of it. Really put the personal story in a more coherent color for me. And it's like, and I wonder how do you avoid, I mean, it seems like such a ripe area for ego's not the right word, but I'll use it for lack of a better one on the mind, of like, I know what's best for you, and I'm going to, I'll use air quotes here, like, I'm going to make you do it because I know that you're going to have bad results if you don't.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, questions and honesty, right? Find out where people are at, find out if they've tried it before, ask some questions, and don't make promises you can't back up. I mean, this is what it is, this is how it works. I'll tell you something I said to someone about an ad campaign recently. They said, well, what about this, Tyler? What about this? And I said, look, you guys are not the first real estate agents to do an ad campaign, right? The process is there. ChatGPT will tell you how to do it. ChatGPT will tell you the expected results. It'll show you where the concerns are, where we might fail, where we might be successful. And just because it worked for 10,000 other real estate agents doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But this is what it looks like. And so I'd say asking the right questions until you understand enough to be able to make proper suggestions. And on the customer's end, I mean, look, we're not going to sign it for you, right? We'll put the X on the page, we'll put the pen in front of you. You still got to make that decision. So it's still your responsibility. Pay attention. There's car sales guys out there. Pay attention. Just kidding. But yeah, there's some egos in the space. It's interesting, right? I've got a rule on bouncing objections when I'm trying to close, and I don't care if it's right, but this is how I live. We bounce anything 3 times, and I say if somebody gives you the same excuse 3 times, the third time, just leave them alone, let them go. Find somebody else, increase your law of average, increase your prospecting, make more calls, sit in more meetings. But I'm a nice guy. I don't want to push you into it. Like, I'll push you a little bit, I'll help you purchase the product, but I'm not going to drag you through it. We'll find somebody else to buy this truck. We'll find somebody else to buy this marketing. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't buy my ad campaign or if you don't buy my AI bot. And that's how I believe. Obviously, to be able to do that, you got to increase your volume. We're working on a program right now where we have to actually contact every insurance provider in the country. But there's only 230 insurance providers in the country. So that's not a high volume, right? We can hit those very quickly with a good strategy and a good process, proper pipeline, proper heat in the pipeline, organize it, go through it. We can do this very, very quickly. So increase your volume. Don't put an offer into one insurance company. Hit them all, every single one of them, and then you don't have to worry about pushing somebody into it. You'll find people that are a fit for your product that you align with.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a little bit that your work ethic on the front end kind of determines your ability to influence rather than manipulate on the back end. It broadens your base and decreases the personal life pinch pressure of like, oh, I need to make this happen, or something bad's going to happen to me or my business if I can't make utilities next month.
Yeah, you got it. If you can't tell, I'll give you a very easy way to tell you that your team's not prospecting enough. People start fighting over deals. right? People start fighting over the scraps that are on the table. Nobody's prospecting enough, right? Um, which I'm going to quote the wrong guy here. Jeffrey Gitomer, pretty sure, says for every sale you want, you better have 10 you think are going to buy, right? And what that means is that you don't have 10 in your pipeline. You have 10 people you swear are buying this week. And then you'll get one every single week for the rest of the year, right?
Mm.
But if you have 9 you think are buying this week, you can't guarantee one 52 weeks in a row. And I live by that. I mean, so many sales guys. Oh yeah, I got to call. Don't worry, this one's coming, boss. This one's coming through. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. I I want you to have a list of those. So go 10x your prospecting. Go. Just keep going. That's the other thing. How many people should I call? As many as it takes to get a sale. Right. So just end of story. I mean, sometimes it's 10. Sometimes it's 10,000. Get to work. Right? The only way you're not going to make a sale is not making the calls. So
Yeah.
whether it's calls, walk-ins, how many does it take? Go call. Go call for the next 6 months. Go call every single day. You won't have a rent issue. And I guess that's
Yeah.
pretty easy to say. I don't know everybody's individual situation. If you have a rent issue in the next 30 days, you probably shouldn't jump into straight commission sales. Right? Go get yourself a job where you can serve or you can do something and put away 3 months, 3 months of bills and rent, and then go do it. And listen, people say the same thing about starting a business. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, I jumped out with my limited savings and started my business, and I did not have a huge budget to get started. But I'm a salesman. I'm a sales director. I'm a sales trainer. I'm not worried about finding someone to buy. I'll find someone. I'm going to work with at least one of these prospects because I got 10 people I think are going to buy from me this week. Right?
And then just rinse and repeat every week.
Yeah, well, and you don't need to in business if you're in sales and you're selling full time, sure. But in business, one of the worst things I think you can do is overwhelm the company and give your customers worse service. So, right now, for example, I've got 5 clients I'm working with at ATP, maybe another 3 or 4 at the firm, and I'm not chasing sales this week. I'll touch my pipeline a little bit. I'm just not in a pressure to get them in today. I'll talk to customers about, oh yeah, well, why don't we start that at the end of February? Yeah, why don't we start that in March? And I think that indifference, which is one of the 6 impulses, also helps us sell product, right? People, we're not barking at their heels trying to get a sale out of them. We're saying to them like, okay, well, why don't we both prepare and launch that in March? Why don't we get ready and we'll talk about this in February, right? So
Yeah, that take the direct pressure off of them, and because the direct pressure is off of you, I like that.
yeah, well, and again, personal development, right? You don't want to be needing this sale to pay your rent. Work on yourself and your saving and your spending habits, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about lots of money when we're talking about rent month to month. You might not know how to get there yet. You might need to grow into that person, but that's what we're talking about. You need to grow into a person where that isn't that much month to month and you know how to handle it. And that's partially saving, and that's partially doing jobs that you think are below you, and that's partially doing all kinds of different things. You got to grow into the person where that's always paid. But I was paying my own rent at 17, and I've been paying my own rent since, and I've never missed it. And I haven't missed it because I had to, right? And so if you're 24 years old and you're getting a sales job, but you've never had to pay your rent, well, because you're living at mom and dad's house, that's fine. And, good for you. I'm happy you have a situation where you can do that. But if you have to, you're going to find a way, right? And so you got to grow into that person, right? You want to be a business owner, it's going to take some time. I'm just at the start of my journey. I'm 4 years into being a business owner. The rest was as a director with a CEO at the last couple of companies I've built, which means I didn't have to deal with a lot of things. There was a lot of things I didn't have to deal with. And now as a CEO, I have to learn and I have to deal with. And I don't pretend to be an expert at it. I know very well that I need help with the finances. And that's why we talk to a CFO, and I need help with the strategy and the planning. And that's where we talk to some operations guys. And that's a journey for me. I figure it'll take me about 7 years, right? So that's about another 3. And to do that, we're in the Brendan Bouchard Growth Day courses, learning every day. We have things in our curriculum. I have things in my curriculum around being a CEO. the Jordan Peterson University, signed up for that, taking a statistics course right now. Do I need statistics? Well, no, but now that I'm doing strategy and we're making decisions for the company, I need to be able to read them. So we're taking a statistics course, and I will continue that ongoing education probably for the rest of my life. Everybody's different, but I'll probably continue doing that forever. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's really what we're here to do, is to grow and evolve and actually and to communicate. It's interesting, the topic of leadership. It's hard. I find it hard to differentiate leadership from communication. That's in verbal or body language and all of these other things. And I was watching this show with my wife last night, Becoming Nobody. It's like a Ram Dass documentary. And
Okay.
he said the one thing that you are here to do, there is nothing else. The only thing that you are in this realm to do is to learn how to communicate more effectively. And I think it's so interesting how little focus is put on that. Like, until you become either a salesperson or a network marketer or a business owner, it's like, why would I want to talk to anybody? Why would I want to learn how to improve my communication? And I'm curious, I'd love at some point here, we can kind of move into some technology chats. But before we did, I was hoping you could tell us three quick stories. One of them is your favorite way that somebody has ever started a conversation with you, or you have started a conversation with somebody.
Oh, my favorite way to start a conversation, or that someone has started a conversation with me. I'd probably say the dad jokes.
Yeah.
I'll accredit this to my uncle Mike, but I learned in sales when I was door to door about 17 years ago ish, maybe a little more, that you needed an icebreaker, and I got, if I was doing any better, there'd be two of me from my uncle. And I've leaned on it. And I've leaned on it from sales job to sales job to sales job. And when you came into a Get Assist office, if you listened, you could hear 30 different reps using that opener. We used it all over the country. And we found that if you could make people laugh, you could do a better job. But the first place I saw it was actually a sales rep. His name was Chad. I'd give him credit, but I don't know his last name. He was a leader at a company called T&I back in the day, door-to-door company, and we were selling sponsor kits for World Vision Plan Canada, where we would go door-to-door and we would convince people to pay $30 a month and get a kit that they could sponsor overseas. And you could make yourself a little bit of money, but the money was going to the kids, and so it was just about working hard, doing a high volume, and raising a lot of money in Canada and raising money for yourself at the same time. And one of the trainers, Chad, used to knock on the door and back up, give people space. And when they opened the door, he'd say, "Who's your favorite superhero?" And people would be like, "What? Are you like? Who are you?" And he'd be like, "I'm out of your hair in a second. Just who's your favorite superhero?" And they'd be like, "I don't know, Spider-Man." And it was like, "Okay, well, what's Spider-Man do? What's he known for? What's he do with those webs?" And they go, "Oh, he fights bad guys and he helps people." And he'd go, "Great, and we're here to help some people today too. Check this out." Meet Andy.
Dang.
Okay. And so I watched this icebreaker and I was like, okay, like this is a real move. Like, we don't say put an icebreaker on your call and then repeat it in training every week for the next 2 years and watch in frustration as a rep doesn't use an icebreaker for the 5,000th time for no reason. It's like, these are powerful, powerful moves. They go a long way. If you can get a customer laughing and giggling, you're there, man. And I've seen kind of not a bastardization of this, but some other things that work that people seem to think is the answer. One of the things is just like breaking the normal interaction. I see this a lot with door-to-door nowadays, where they talk about like just breaking the sales cycle with customers and like having some random conversation first. And it's like, yeah, you're doing the same thing, but just try an icebreaker, man. Just get them laughing, get the customer happy and smiling, grinning. And then, if everybody's got a grin on their face, they're probably going to let you finish talking.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. It's so succinct. I asked you a while ago, like, how do you build trust in 5 seconds, like on a cold call? And it's like, that's one of my other, top question for high level salespeople is like, how do you build trust in 5 seconds when you knock on somebody's door? And I think that's the best one I've ever heard.
Yeah, get them laughing. Be honest. Show people you're fun, right? And if you're not fun, learn how to be fun. Don't just fake it. Like, learn how to be fun. One of the reasons I was good at sales is because I actually enjoy these interactions, right? Like, I don't care if we're going door to door or we're going B2B or we're cold calling or we're doing something. I actually enjoy meeting people, right? And so a mentor of mine said to me right at the start of my sales career, and I'm so lucky he did. He said, leave everybody having a better day than when you met them. And he goes, and your job will never be hard. And I took it to heart. Like, you don't know what happened to the guy you're cold calling. He could have slammed his finger in the door on the way to work. His dog could have died. His wife could have died. People are going through all kinds of things that they don't talk about. Some small, some big. Sometimes you're just feeling under the weather. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You're having a bad day. You can't get focused. And then you get a call out of the blue. And it's like, man, if you can get that guy grinning and enjoying his day, I mean, not only do you have a way better chance of making a sale, but like, even if he's not a fit, you qualify him out, like, you have an impact on the world, right? Like, you really do. People underestimate how big of an impact we have on our community. When we say people need to be honest and good, we don't mean those people. We mean you. We mean me, right? The doing the right thing is what makes society better, and that means you doing the right thing and me doing the right thing when nobody's watching. And so when you're calling and you're trying to sell someone, like, stop focusing on just trying to sell somebody and start focusing on improving everybody's day and being a good person and enjoying learning and enjoying your job, and watch how much further you get, right? Maybe not today. It'll take a few weeks, but like, it'll work.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It may be somewhat related, but another story I'd love to hear is one of your wildest successful interactions.
One of my wildest successful interactions, I had a fun one with the guys that were running business development for Staples Canada. And Staples, the store, you go in and you buy your books and your desks and your chairs and this kind of good stuff. And
just not your Staples.
Not just, yeah, just your Staples. And I phoned them. And somebody had said to me, I got two for you, actually. I'll tell you two stories, they're a little different. But this one, I phoned them and I said, hey, do you think there's someone we could talk to about this? We'd like to partner up with Staples. We think we could be in your stores and you could do this with us. And they said, yeah, we'll send a couple guys by the office. And I just booked them like a normal appointment, right? So they gave me this number. I called this guy. I didn't know who he was, but I'm like, yeah, come by. Here's our address. 5-stepped him and got him in the building. And he shows up with his boss. And so I end up with one of the owners of a Staples, one of the general managers, and the guy running Staples for Western Canada's business development. And we sit down and I start the whole presentation with, look, I know you guys don't need us, but we really think, you could help us and we could be of help. And the guy just stops to be cold and he goes, what are you talking about? You're exactly who we need to partner up with. He's like, you guys are literally building a network to communicate with micro and small business. That's our customer base. We love what you're doing. We're here to support. And boom. Next thing you know, they put us in like 16 Staples stores. They let me come to their AGM and meet all the different owners. I did a presentation at their annual general meeting. And that was just pretty cool. So you don't know, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Make that call, you put it in front of them, see what happens, right? And then the other one's just fun. So
Send it.
I had a lot of big swinging egos, let's call it, in my offices, right? Because we trained to get better. And so that meant that someone who was working hard might take your spot, right? If you weren't practicing and training and they might just kick you off your throne. And so there's always some good competition, and we had good leaderboards, and I knew how to, get the team to thrive on that. And we decided we needed some professional services, lawyer, doctor, dentist, all the rest of it. And the sales guys had no problem calling the lawyers, and they had no problem calling the other industries, but they were all scared of dentists for some reason. And so I sent their boss with them, and I said, that's all right. Brent, you go with these guys. You show them how it's done. Go get us that dentist downstairs. And there's a dentist downstairs in our building. And so I send him with Brent, and nothing happens, and I don't talk about it the next day. I go, so Brent, what happened? And Brent's like, well, the dentist, and he hadn't gone in. And I was like, what are you talking about? You haven't gone in. I was like, go in there. I said, you know what? Vic. And I grab Vic, who's the manager, and I'm like, Vic will take you in there. Vic, there's a dentist downstairs. You go in there, and all these guys have huge egos. They're the guy, you know? And then Vic goes, not a problem, Tyler. I'll take him down there. And so after lunch, I go see Vic, and I said, Vic, how'd it go? Well, we didn't go, and da-da-da. And I'm like, what? And so I take this other guy named Victor, who's at the time the general manager, and I go, Victor, take him in there, and go get him a cell. End of the day comes, and Victor comes in, and he goes, I haven't taken him in yet, but I'll do it tomorrow. And I was like, come on, boys, come on, let's go. And I grabbed the GM, and I grabbed Vic, and I grabbed Brent, and I said, come with me right now. We're going in there. And I walk in, and they're all following me, and I walk up to the front desk, and I'm, hi, how are you doing? Sorry to bother you. I know it's the end of the day. Look, we run this network upstairs. It's like this $500 product. We'd love if you guys would join us. We need a dentist to answer leads. And the receptionist goes, how much is it, hon? And I said, it's $500 a year. And she just opens the drawer, pulls out a credit card, and puts it on the table. She goes, the dentist is busy, but get us signed up. And it was like, oh my God, it was the easiest sale we'd ever made, right? This customer was just like, $500, don't waste my time. Let's try it, see what happens. And because they're dentists, they got money. And so it was so interesting to see this, all of these big egos just being terrified. And then you walk in and it's nothing. So how about this? How about you want to become a better salesman? Learn how to deal with fear. Get into rock climbing. Get into overnight camping. Go do a solo in the woods. Go do something where you learn how to deal with fear on a business development sense so that you're not scared to make these obscene moves in business. And then every once in a while, you're going to get lucky. Someone's just going to throw a credit card on the table for you.
That is a phenomenal story.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. And I was nervous, too, right? I walk in with these three guys that I got to show how to do this now and talking about leadership. I was scared. I went, oh, God, all these guys are scared, But listen, somebody's got to walk in there and ask for the business. And so we're going to walk up and we're just going to ask. And they can say no, and that's fine. And I used to do calls in front of the guys, too. And I'd say, here, we're going to do a booking right now. And I'd have 20 people watch it. And I'd pick up the phone and I'd start dialing. And sometimes I had to dial 40 times in front of that room to get somebody. And sometimes I had to dial once. And you look better when you only had to dial once. But you look good when you had to dial 40, right? It was like, no, consistent, persistent effort till you get what you want. Don't be scared. And if you are scared, be courageous, right?
Yeah, it's funny how in my, I spent 8 years really learning from the ground up, like how to interact with humans, just going out and talking to strangers on the street. And I found that the people who looked most like I was like, oh yeah, that looks like a nice person, were they weren't always rude, but they were conversations typically didn't go anywhere. And then I remember this one guy at the gym one time, and this dude was like 6'5", just like muscle man, like you would farm him and sell him, in the butchers. And tattoos all up, bald head, tattooed right with a cowl, like just his face was showing. And he's lifting like, I don't know, 300-400 pounds deadlift. And I just walked over to him and I was like, hey man. And he was like, hey, how's it going? Turned into a friendship. We hung out like 2 or 3 times after that. And it was so terrifying to go over there, but I assume like, probably nobody ever talks to him because everybody's scared. So, and he's probably just looking for, interaction just like the rest of us.
Yeah. I love that story. I met a relationship that I was in for 3 years once. There was a girl in the bar. She's older than me. We were in the Army at the time, in uniform. She was quite a bit older than me, but she was, wearing that right dress and looking beautiful. And I went, I gotta ask, right? And so I went up and I started chatting her up. And she said, you're the first person to approach me in this bar. And I was like, really? And then she's like, yeah. I was like, that's because you're intimidating, right? You're gorgeous. And she gave me your number, and I almost became the father to her children. It didn't work out in the end, but we were close. We spent 3 years together, and she was a pretty amazing lady. But it was a good reminder that, like, yeah, it's probably worth the risk. You should probably get in there and risk it,
Yeah, it's like what's that quote? Take the high road. There's less traffic up there.
Yeah, for sure. Take the road less traveled. I like that one too. I guess I always have, and sometimes not intentionally. Sometimes it's just how the world has worked, and sometimes I just take another path. But I haven't told this story in years. I got one for you too here.
Yeah.
So I was in that leadership camp, and I like to lead. I like to be in the front, right? And so one of the coaches there realizes I like to be in the front, and I was just discovering my relationship with a higher power at this time. And he says to me, "All right, Tyler, you're going to go in the back." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You're going to sit in the back. We're going to hike for a couple hours. You're going to go in the back." And I said, "Okay." And I grew up in the woods. I hike a lot. I grew up out there in the area we were in. And so we get around Klein River up in the Nordegg area, and we're hiking. And this trail, there's a bunch of trails, but the trail we're on is going up and down and up and down and up. And I'm losing my mind because that's not how you conserve energy while you hike. We go over here where it's flat and we walk around and then we go up the hill or something of that nature. And so I keep, hey, there's a trail over there, and, doing a few things. And this coach is like, "You just sit in the back and stay out of it, okay? Just hike." And I was like losing it. I was like, okay, whatever. So after about 4 or 5 hours, he could just see it wearing me down. And he's like, "All right, Tyler, get up there. You can show us where to go." And I get to the front, and I take an immediate 90-degree turn, no trail. I'm going to walk us to this flat area so we can walk the riverbed and follow it up, and then we'll cut back up to the trail. And I walk about, I shit you not, 10 feet into the woods, and I find a staff, a hiking staff, with a hand carved into it, and old twine wrapped around it, and a pipe that had never been used, carved into the handle. And it was as much of a God shot as anything that had ever happened to me. And I picked this thing up from the ground, and we stopped at the right place. I went to the front. I veered off. I'm in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere, you couldn't get any kind of motorized vehicle up where we were. And I walk into the woods randomly about 10 feet, and boom, I find this thing that's been left there for me, right? And it was my reminder that I'm supposed to be in the front of the pack, and I'm supposed to lead. And if you think something's right, there's a good chance it is. And you're right, there's egos there, but I don't know that that's a huge problem for me. I want participation from the group. I want my people supporting and helping growing what we're doing. But if you're sitting there and you're going, "Hey, this isn't the right way to do this, the right way's over there," well, then it's up to you, having seen that problem, to lead people over there and to lead them through it. And I still today have that staff.
Wow.
That walking stick.
That's amazing. Yeah, a lot of really cool, profound God shots happen up in that place and in those woods.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I needed them too because I was stubborn. So, right. It takes me a few tries to learn a lesson. So sometimes they're pretty rough. But I find myself looking up at the sky quite often and going, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a metaphysical implication there as well. I asked earlier about the ego of interacting with a business and pushing them and being like, "I know what's right for this person." And I think what I'm picking up from the combination of that and your response in this answer and this story here is that if you're a good person and you're honestly trying to do the best thing, is that God's not going to lead you astray. He's not going to let you lead somebody down a dark path.
Yeah, and if you want a cheat sheet to the biggest lesson I've ever learned that I'm still learning today that seems to have a serious effect in business, and that'd be candidness as a kindness. Okay, so I cannot tell you how many relationships were ruined because I was too kind and non-confrontational, and I didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I can't tell you how many businesses I've watched fail because they haven't taken advice that I've given them. And I was not yet enough of a leader to stand up and say, "Hey, you need to listen to me here, or you will end up out of business." And I wasn't confident enough in what I was doing. And so I say my opinion, and I say it again, and I say it again, and then I let it unfold. And I watch them fail over that piece that I told them. And the thing is I've been in this game for a long time. I know that that's going to kill you. I know that's going to shut you down. I know that's going to be your demise. I know this guy can't do it. I can tell this guy's not there. And so, candidness is a kindness. You need to remember that when you do know what's right, you need to speak up. Now, what's right for someone else, I don't know that I'd go that far, but what's right for your business? Listen, I got the experience. Don't do that. I've done it before. That's going to hurt, right? People go, you got to let people burn themselves. No, look, just stand up and be candid. Look, I've done this before. Here's some examples. Do not do this, right? And I guess at a certain point, people are going to do what they do, but I hate to watch businesses fail. I watched Remodel It Television a year after I left. It went bankrupt. It went out of business, and I knew the guys that we left in charge to run the sales just, one had a drug problem and just wasn't going to get there, and the other one just wasn't that good. And I knew as I was leaving that was right. I was carrying it, and it was unfortunate to see. I would have loved to have been able to point to a TV show that was still on air and say that's the one I built, right? And luckily with Get Assist, I could still do it, right? It's that one, all across Canada, opening across the US. Look at what we built, right? Amazing piece of software, amazing company, lots of relationships from it, and you can see what we built, right? And today, there are hundreds of companies that are in business because of According to Plan Sales and Marketing. There are hundreds of lighting companies successfully selling across Canada and the United States. We are currently helping a number of different companies get off the ground. We have helped a dozen companies hit their first $1 million in sales. So we do know what we're doing, and sometimes we got to remember that and stand up and push it, right?
Yeah, that's a big lesson I was faced with probably a little over a year ago, and through the year have been having repeated opportunities to really step into that place. God gives us opportunities to grow. He doesn't give us growth. And it's been really powerful just being able to say actually what's on my mind. And because I come definitely from that. They say you're either a 2x4 guy or a metaphor guy. And I've always said, as my mentor before me said, I'm more of a 4x4 guy. You can tell me as many things as you want. I need that thing to smack me upside the head and go like, oh yeah, that does hurt. and I think I often treat people like that is like I just back off and I'm like, okay, well, here it comes. and that's not an effective or a responsible use of my leadership.
Yeah,
if they need it, and they'll take it. But I need to be, and I am getting more forward and more blunt, and just being willing to offend people and piss them off.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. I think you said it. Those two things, hitting it on the head, right? That's not a responsible use of my leadership and the skills and the opportunity I've been given. I need to step up and be willing to offend you, to tell you the truth. And when you think about the leaders that made big changes in your life, like Gorski and some of these other guys that made these huge impact on my life, I mean, good people that I respected, not scared of offending me.
Yeah.
Right? Like telling you how it is. Like, wait a second, you're kind of being an ass, Wait a second, you're not doing a good job of this. And, I aspire to get to that one day, right? And so keep growing. Keep working on yourself. Keep trying to get there. I'm still growing. I hope you do too. As Brendan Bouchard would say, every day is a great day to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's through the alumni program out there, it's been consistent feedback that the biggest change down the road when guys look back, the biggest change that was ever made in their life was when one of the coaches stepped up and basically said something that really irked them, that completely offended them. And they completely rebelled against whatever was said in the moment, and later look back and went, oh crap, he was right.
100% makes sense. And so, we got to learn how to do that, right? Risk being offensive, right?
Yeah.
Good people don't like to offend others, right? I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to do that. But I like the way you said that. That's not a good use of this. It's not a good, responsible use of the skills that I have to watch somebody walk into a saw blade, right? It's like, no, what you're doing is not going to work. Here's why. I know you're sensitive about this, but this is what's going on, and it's gonna hurt your business, right?
Yeah.
And maybe offend them a little bit more now, even at risk of losing the relationship, versus watching them fail doing that in business. And then if he goes bankrupt, you're gonna lose the relationship anyways. So,
Yeah.
it's a thing, right? I've got a client I've been working on for years, and he's just stepping on his own feet, and it's around things that we've had conversations about, and I've let slide, and then he's going out of business right now, and we've talked about it, and he finally believes me, the stuff I said to him years ago. And he goes, I think you were right about all that. And it was like, yeah, well, couldn't we have just saved 2 years if you'd listened a little sooner? But maybe I need to learn how to talk a little louder and how to communicate a little better, so that we could have got past that, and then we'd still be working on that business, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Two parties to tango. Well, brother, let's make a little bit of a pivot here.
sure.
I'm curious to talk a little bit more about technology and the rise of the intelligence revolution. Maybe an intro question into this is, what role do humans and influence techniques keep as the intelligence revolution continues to scale, especially as it begins to scale by increasing orders of magnitude?
Nice. Okay. So how do people stay relevant, in essence, as we do this?
Yeah, like maybe to paint a little bit of more context, we've seen this thing where people have been the driving force between technological evolution since the dawn of the sharp stick. And we're coming to this place now with agentic and AI-driven AI feedback loops, like AI training AI. A lot of the big companies are reporting that none of their code is even being written by them anymore. It's all being written by the language machines or the agents that they've created. And so one vision that we can cast into the future is that technology now iterates itself. And there's the doomer perspective of, okay, well, we're all going to lose our jobs, and it's going to be Terminator 4, World War 3, all of this stuff, and everything's going to crap. And I very much had the opposite perspective. I think much more on the utopian lens for what the possibility is, but I also believe that humans can never be made irrelevant because of what makes humans unique to machines and to like raw computed intelligence. And I'm curious what your perspective is on what role humans and influence techniques, like why should I, if I'm growing up in 2026, why should I even bother learning how to talk to anyone or influence anyone or lead? Everything's going to be done by my AI in 5 years.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm one of the ones that doesn't believe that you are going to replace all of your employees with AI, but rather you want your employees using AI. Like, to speak to your example about the coders, like, wouldn't you rather your engineers didn't have to code and they just had to review code? Because wouldn't they move way faster? So this is a positive, right? It's not a negative. And so I think the idea that humans won't be involved in it is a little ridiculous. Maybe humans won't be involved in things they shouldn't be involved in, right? We don't need you to sit there and just push the 3 buttons. Like, yeah, sure, we can automate that, right? And you can do something more valuable with your time. And so I say to business, so I build AI bots for small businesses. That's something that ATP does. We build AI employees, we call them, into a business, whether it's a receptionist or a follow-up bot or whatever the company needs, or at least someone to take reservations, whatever. And that's always part of the conversation. Is like, okay, am I replacing employees, losing some, et cetera? I say, no, everybody's just going to be more efficient when we're done. Right? So maybe that means as you scale, you hire less. Sure, there's some implications for employment in that sense. But like, what you think because we have an AI receptionist, the CEO is going to start reading all the messages? Like, no, the receptionist is just going to be faster now. She's going to have some support. She's going to have some new tech. So in essence, I think we should just be buying this technology and setting it up for our teams. And so that's my opinion about how to use it. As far as whether or not it makes people obsolete, I would say robots are probably more likely to make people obsolete than AI is. And well, if your job is stocking shelves for a living, you should probably You should probably get on AI and ask it what else you could be doing, right? But also, is AI a bad thing? Because now you can get on there and talk to it about what you should do, and you could learn through it, find a job through it, do all these other things. So, you know, if your job wasn't unique and wasn't hard to do, I guess, and it's easily replaceable, well, it was as easy replaceable with another employee as AI is gonna as it is for AI to replace. And I just don't think that the evolution of a technology like that is going to even get close to stopping us. I think I mean, first of all, humans are a little bit of a virus. We're hard to get rid of. I don't think we're going anywhere. And if Elon Musk has anything to say with it, we'll be multiplanetary very quickly here in the next 10 years, and it won't matter. So, do I think that might mean in the future we need some universal basic income and things like that? Sure. But you know, I'd rather provide a universal basic income than seeing people smoking crack in alleys anyways. You know, a little bit of wealth distribution, or even small wealth redistribution, from companies like Visa and MasterCard that have a 50% profit margin over the entire country and spending that money on building our communities. Sure, we need to come up with some innovative ways to deal with the problems that are about to plague humanity due to AI, but obsolete? No, not a chance. And if it does happen at some point, we'll just unplug it, right?
Yeah, and I'm curious do you say you had a conscious or a hyper intelligence, super intelligence is probably more closer to reality at the moment, like a super intelligent agentic robot that was doing things, and then you had a human. Like, if they all had the same physical real world skill sets, like what is it, if anything, about the human that distinguishes it from that, that synthetic?
Depends what we have it doing, I guess, right? Listen, if I want you to do the same thing the same way every single time, and I don't want you to deviate, if we're franchising or launching dealers or repeating a process, robot's going to do it better, because humans are valuable. We're hungover, we're late, we're stressed, we're fighting with our wives, girlfriends, dogs, people die, sick days, people get hit by buses, right? People die. And so having a robot that could do it repeatedly, that doesn't die, that's a digital, CRM, artificial intelligence, it's probably better for some of those roles. But even in customer service, AI is better at 2 a.m. when I need to ask a question about my computer. Microsoft should have an AI I'm talking to. Why is a human being answering the phone? Right? That doesn't make any sense. We should be using this technology for those kind of things. But when I go to buy a computer, I want to talk to a human, right? Not everyone.
Why is that?
Because I got questions that I want to see what their opinion is, not just facts and stats. Well, have you tried it? How did it work for you? What do you think? Right? Because we all know that you can invent a new car and spend a lot of money on it, and it might not work the way it's supposed to work, right? Things don't, just because the specs say it, right? And
Yep.
so people for opinions, shared experience. What happened for you? What are other customers saying? Now, could we get that from reviews? Yeah, but they can be faked. And so having people that we can talk to get the experience of other human beings, I think that part definitely is not going to be obsolete. I think serving, it's like, do you want to go to a restaurant where only robots serve you? Like, okay, maybe there'll be restaurants where robots serve you, but I'm still going to pay to go to the special steakhouse that has the human servers, because it's part of the experience. We decide we want to go camping. Do you want a robot guide or do you want a guide, right? Somebody's going to teach us how to whitewater raft. Do I want an AI teaching me how to do that? No. I want a guy who knows how to not drown upside down in the river, who has a bunch of experience in the river, teaching me how to get out of that problem. Not just something I read on a book, in a book, right? Well, in essence, I say read in a book, but if AI is answering you on a screen, same thing. It doesn't have all the context, and neither does the human, but you can connect on a human level, person to person, and they can figure out what you're looking for. And that being said, take it with a grain of salt, right? So
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I'm curious too. You mentioned the shared experience, and I'm curious. I'm I'm curious what's there. Like if you had a robot that had all the could talk just like a human and had the synthetic flesh, and you were aware that it had a tag that said, "Hey, I'm a robot," and then you had a flesh and blood human. Like what is it about the flesh and blood human that causes that or allows for that connection, or could the connection be the same? You know, we have reports coming out of people marrying their chatbots and all this stuff. Like there seems to be some sort of a connection, the capacity for a connection there in some respects. But what is it then that like what is there something inside the human that allows for something elevated there in the custom restaurant experience with human servers?
Yeah, well, one would be the uniqueness and the shared experience for sure. Um, it might be unique right now to have a robot bringing you food, but it's going to lose its excitement pretty quickly. You don't know what that server is going to say or act like. They're part of the experience of the restaurant. Now, I'm sure that people will get creative with that with robots as well, and it will have its own uniqueness. And we've seen this with some of the little mini chefs that are running around on tables and things like that. Like, there's lots that you can do that does not involve the people, but we're pack animals, right? People want to connect with other people. And I was coaching somebody recently, and he's very isolated. He's a professional, he's good at his job, but he's very isolated. And so we've been working together for a lot of years, and I'm having a hard time getting him to take the step to go build those necessary human connections. And I finally said, well, just pretend you're a caveman, all the way back to the caveman time. And you're sitting here and you're watching the city, and there's 1.3 million people in this city. And I said, and you're sitting up here in the woods watching. In the woods by yourself, watching. And put yourself in those shoes, because that's what you're doing. You're working by yourself, you're going home by yourself, you're working by yourself, you're going home by yourself, you're working by yourself, you're going home. And there's 1.3 million people down in that field. And you know that that's the human experience. That's why you're here. That's the connection that matters. We are literally community-based beings. We need to connect with our communities. And so the human experience is your community. You need to connect with your community. You don't need to be an honest person just because it's good for you. You need to be good in your community, right? You don't want to just go to a restaurant to get food served to you. You can do that with Skip the Dishes. You go for the experience and connection with your community. This is a restaurant in your community. The owner, how cool is it when the owner or the manager comes over to your table and talks to you? He's a member of your community that started a restaurant to service people in the community and show them a good time. And there you are experiencing it on the other side of that. That's what a community is all about. And so whether it's Get Assist, trying to connect communities that way, or it's whether it's our goals currently of helping small businesses grow, we want to connect. We want to connect our community. We want to help our community. We think you should too. Everybody that gets involved in their community is going to do better. I have a lot of job offers on the table for running sales teams that are very cash heavy, but are not connected with my values, that do not give you that community connection, or are selling a product that I don't want to get behind. I don't want to be part of pushing that out in the world. And they always offer more money for some reason. The Sith Lord always offers a little bit more money. And I walk away from them so often that some of my closers hate me for it, right? We're not going to get involved in a product that I'm not proud to sell, right? We're not going to do it because my community matters. The small business owners in Canada and Calgary matter. Did you know small business owners employ over 70% of the workforce?
I did not know that.
Most people work for a small business, not for Amazon, not for the banks. Most people work for a small business. So how you affect small businesses and what it's like to run a small business in Canada matters more than many a thing, right? So how you treat other people matters, and I really believe that, and I think that's part of leading by example is doing the right thing. I had somebody say to me once, we were golfing after a golf game. We're sitting in the car, and I said, I made a statement about, I always wish the best for people, and I do the best I can for all my customers. And he said, not everybody thinks that about you, Tyler. And I said, oh, that's too bad. And I didn't ask any more questions. We just kept talking. And he brought up later, he goes, you didn't seem too curious about that. And I said, I work my hardest for people. I do the best job I possibly can do. And I do what I think God would want me to do. And I work as hard as I possibly can. So I don't have to walk around with shame and guilt. It doesn't matter if it worked. I did my best. I showed up, worked the hardest way I could, did my best. The results are what they are. That's what I could give. And I find as long as you're doing that, you don't have to second guess things, right?
Yeah, that reminds me of something a mentor of mine said recently. It was around like having online publications, YouTube streams, whatever, and getting haters in the comments. And he said, I love the haters. He said that they are a waypoint and a waymarker, A, for success, B, for notice, and C, half the time they have legitimate complaints. And it's like, now I can steer my marketing funnel or my approach, anything like that, based on what they've said. So he said, if I had a comment stream that didn't have any haters in it, I'd be a bit concerned.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, right? That feedback loop. Where do you get your feedback? I think that saying that you are the 5 people you spend the most of your time with, I think that's where you can lean for feedback if you don't have that comments, right? If you don't have that field or that space, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with positive people. And sometimes you've got to be the first one to do it. I remember being 24 years old and sitting in a circle, and everybody was talking about this man. It doesn't matter who, but we were going in the circle and everybody was talking about this guy and all the things he did wrong. And it went from one to the other, and it came to me, and I just said, I don't think it's healthy for us to be sitting in a circle talking about someone that's not here. I just don't like it. And
Yep.
There was hate. Everyone was angry and upset and all this. And, well, I had to leave, actually. And I came back later. And it was like, hey, yeah, we probably shouldn't have been doing that. And it's like, no, it's okay. I used to, participate. Obviously, that's why we were comfortable doing that. But I want to change. I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to live this life anymore. I want to be a business owner. One of the cool things we're doing, and actually, Cyril, you'll love this. So in that leadership camp, somebody gave me these, and these are virtue cards. You ever seen a virtue card before?
I'm pretty sure I'm familiar, yeah.
Yeah, so a virtue card, for those that don't know, there are all the different virtues, and you pick yourself a card, right, in the morning. And so, for example, moderation. And there's a little quote about what moderation is, a little definition. And then there's a few examples of how to practice moderation. And then there's a little prayer you could say about moderation, or maybe some self-talk or something like this.
Mantra.
Mantra, there you go, yeah. And so I have been using this set of virtue cards since that leadership school when I was 24 years old. And I use them all the time. I use them almost daily. And I pick a virtue, and that's how we're going to act today. And ATP and myself, we are releasing a set of business virtue cards. 52 for 52 virtues and 52 weeks of the year. So that weekly, at the start of the week, you can close your eyes and pull yourself a card, and you can have a little bit of a God shot in your life, giving him the opportunity to help you pick the right one, him or her, I guess, to help you pick the right one so that you can pick courage. And we can show courage in our business this week, and what that means, how to act that way, how to become that person. And so, I very much am focused on personal growth and the growth of others. We do this by selling and reselling Brendan Burchard's High Performance Habits and Growth Day. So there's a link in our bio and our social platforms. But we will also be releasing business virtue cards. They'll be out here within the next 90 days, and you'll be able to download them and print them yourself for free. Or you'll be able to just purchase them off the site. We have a pay and ship software where you'll just pay for the printing and shipping, and we'll send it to you. But they won't be expensive; they'll be small, but we'll make them look cool. And for those that want to try and get better, I say you start with being more virtuous in the way that you run your business or the way that you do your sales job. or the way that you lead. And it's a good way to get started.
That's amazing. Keep me in the loop, because I would love to have a set like that.
Yeah, 100%. For bringing me on the interview, we're just going to get you a set. Shameless plug, ATP Sales and Marketing, Virtue Cards.
Thank you, brother. Okay, I got one more technology question for you, and then after that, we'll pivot into kind of the wind down here. Are you familiar with the concept of Theseus's ship?
Theseus's ship. No, I'm not, but I'm going to type it into my ChatGPT right now.
Hang on, he's AI enabled.
Sorry, is AI enabled? Oh,
So Theseus's ship is an old, it's a philosophical thought experiment. The idea is that Theseus goes out to war in his ship, and he comes back and one of the boards is rotten. And so the shipbuilders replace the board, and Theseus goes out to war again. Now Theseus comes back and another board is broken. They replace the board. The question is, at what point is it no longer Theseus's ship? How many boards do you have to replace before it's a different ship? And yeah, let's pause there. I'll leave it over to you.
yeah, like, let's see, what's my opinion on that? I think that replacing planks doesn't change a ship. I think changing the ship would involve changing the ship. Replacing a piece of wood in the ship is not change. It's repair. It's maintenance. It's maintaining the current state of the ship, right? And so to not do that kind of maintenance would be to change the ship, because that rotting is changing the ship, right? And so you're just holding it at bay, right? And that's where I think even working on yourself, maintenance and, basic support and this kind of thing, yeah, it's necessary, but it's not enough to call it change. Cars don't coast uphill. You want to exact real change in that ship, then you add things. You build new things. You add new parts. You do more than maintenance. And so I guess on the identity of the ship side of it, for me, I would say that, general maintenance on a ship has nothing to do with the ship's identity. That's just required for it to maintain being a ship. And to be that ship, it has to be maintained and maintenance. And if you wanted to change Theseus's ship, well, you'd have to add a new compartment, or you'd have to build new quarters, or you'd have to come in and you'd have to do something that involves actually changing the ship. And then it would be a different ship. Well, and then it would just be an upgraded ship. It wouldn't be a different ship either.
Okay, so let's loop technology into this. Would you say the same thing if it was not Theseus's ship, if it was a human body replaced by biomechanical AI-enabled parts?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I very much am interested in artificial intelligence. There's a lot of dopamine in it for me, and I'm very ADHD, and so I'm dopamine driven. If I find something that I find exciting, I can become a master at it, right? And so I'm excited in this whole space, and I've got a friend who's big on cybernetics and wants to push into that space. If you got your heart replaced with an artificial robotics heart, are you still the same person? Yeah, of course you are. You just have a robotics heart. It's Tyler with a robotics heart. If I replace my heart and my guts and my lungs, then yeah, it's just Tyler with an artificial heart and guts and lungs. I mean, I'm still Tyler, right? And you take off an arm, am I still Tyler? Yeah, Tyler with a robot arm. Same as a prosthetic. And that continues and continues and continues and continues. I'd say probably even as far as something along the lines of the neural implants, right? Same as the ship. I mean, we're just doing maintenance. We're just replacing rotten planks. We're just fixing things. When does it become not me? I guess when I lose the values and the connection with a higher power and the connection with my community and the people around me. When does it go from an individual experimenting with cybernetics and replacing broken planks and become a lifeless robot that shouldn't be part of the community? Well, probably somewhere along the same path as it becomes not part of the community and it becomes not human. And we'll know when we get there.
Yeah, so there's something about Tyler that exists above and beyond even the total sum of his parts and organs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I believe that there's something about Tyler that's more than the current avatar I've been given as well. And I think, Jim Carrey embodied, spoke to that quite a bit. And it hit true to me, right? He says depression is your body and brain being tired of playing a character. And I know that doesn't directly correlate over, but I've been in positions where I was playing a character I didn't want to be. And I was able to change that. And I've learned in my life that you can literally change whatever you want. Like literally, I could say, all right, no more ATP or the firm, and I'm going to move to Mexico tomorrow. And I could just do that. And it is what it is. And we have a completely different Tyler, and this one drinks Mai Tais on the beach all day and probably develops a drinking problem over time or something, like whatever it is. But whole different trajectory. And so, I believe we're just here having an experience of some sort. But, where's an old soul come from, right? We've all met people that have been here before in some sense, people who have way more experience. We're all at different parts of a journey. There's people that are brand new, like a freshborn baby, and there's people that you meet that are like, whoa, what is she, Neo met her in the Matrix. What was her name? The Oracle, right?
Oracle,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, it's like some people are like, you can tell. They are an older soul. They've been here longer. They've had more experiences, right? And so I believe we're here having some type of experience in that when it's over, there's more to be learned or to remember or whatever that looks like. And that might be in the sense of, heaven and hell, or that might be in the sense of, one of the other religions being right, or that might be in the sense of just we put ourselves here for a human experience. And there's literally no way to tell, right? As long as you, right? What are you going to do? There's no way to tell. You might as well just take care of yourself and enjoy the passing of time and try and make it more enjoyable for the people around you and just try and help. Just try and help. You want to feel good about yourself? Stop worrying about yourself. Go try and help somebody else. You'll feel good about yourself. It's actually one of the ways you get people to like you. You ask them for a favor, and they'll like you more because people like to help. So if you put yourself in those shoes and you go help, you'll like it. You'll enjoy it. It feels good. It releases oxytocin and some other chemicals.
Yeah, there's a Robert Greene's Mastery, I think, has a story about, it might have been Lincoln, and Lincoln had this arch nemesis who he needed something from, and the guy was like, it was not gonna happen, and what he wound up doing was finding out he had this sweet book that he loved in his library, and he went and talked to him about it and said, hey man, like I really admire that book, I heard you have a copy, could you lend it to me for a week? And the guy lent it to him, and then when he went and gave it back, they were essentially on cordial terms at that point, and Lincoln was able to get whatever he was looking for.
Yeah. People, it's always unfortunate when someone doesn't like you, right? You don't like that, right? Not everyone's going to like you, but no one likes being disliked. Well, some people probably do. But I think I saw a movie recently where Ted Lasso, where they gave it the title for it of enjoying other people's misery. I had a friend back in the day. His nickname was Dream Crusher because he got a smile on his face when other people had problems and things went wrong. And it was always sad. It was always sad to be him, It was, I was a good friend with him for a long time, and it was, misery loves company. I mean, it was sad to be him. It was sad. It's why he was excited to see other people come down to his level. And, he's not doing good, and he's not happy. He's not healthy. And, that old saying, man, some people live in a happy-go-lucky, positive world, and some people live in a negative, miserable, dangerous world. And, newsflash, same place, right? So you got to be out there and you got to experience it all anyways. And you don't really have a choice other than, jumping off something or joining the MAID program. And I don't recommend either of those. And so you better figure out how to enjoy the passing of time. And if Jordan Peterson's right, And as my experience has shown me, and if Brendan Bouchard is right, and if Gary Vaynerchuk is right, and if Tony Robbins is right, and it's all going to come down to taking on more responsibility and becoming a better version of yourself. And that's how you enjoy life. That's how you develop purpose. Is self-improvement and self-reflection and doing positive things and thinking about your future and setting intention and deciding who you're going to be and then showing up and being that guy. And I'm lucky enough, and I forget this sometimes, I forget this all the time, but I'm lucky enough to be the guy I decided I wanted to be 10 years ago. And I hope that everybody who's listening gets that chance. And I tell you, as long as you can remember it's happening, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's powerful. The deciding who you want to be and walking through who is not that until one day you look back and see that is that. You never see the becoming. You just look back and see the became.
Somebody said to me recently they hadn't seen him in years, and he phoned me up and he said, so what are you doing, Tyler? And I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this and this. I'm explaining all these things. And he goes, it's interesting. And I said, what? And he goes, you were talking about all that 5 years ago. And I said, yeah, it was all in my roadmap. And the people that work with me and they're close to me, it might look like chaos, right? Not might. It probably looks like a little bit of chaos, right? I've got multiple businesses. I'm always starting new ones. We're always involved in different projects. We're, up and down. Some days we're working 18 hours. Some days we're working 8. Some days we're working 8 minutes. I'm very impulsive, and I choose to live a very specific way. But I bought my video editing monitor 4 years ago because we're launching a podcast and UGC content in 2026. And I was able to do that and buy the softwares and learn them and partner up with the videographers and develop these relationships years ago so that this would all come together now. And I was able to do that because Brendan Bouchard had me plan my life out 10 years down the road and decide who I wanted to be and what skills that person had and how they acted every day. And so when you sit down and you do those kind of things and you work through those exercises and, before you get to that, do the same thing for your past, your current, right? But then we get to future. And when you're planning out your future and you're deciding who do I want to be and starting to act like that now, well, I've done that 3 times in a row, about 5 years apart, but each time planning 10 years. And so now it's all coming together the way it's supposed to come together. And it might look like chaos from the outside in, but we've got the video editing monitor and we've got the right computer and we've got the right, we've got everything you need to be filming because that was always part of the plan, right? This was always part of the funnel. This was always part of what we needed to do. And that comes together over years. You decide you want to get on a podcast and you start a podcast today and you do 5 episodes and you never do another one. And it's like, well, or you look 10 years down the road and you go, that guy would have a podcast. And so this month I'm going to learn about, videos and editing videos. And next month I'm going to learn about podcasts. I might even spend a year watching podcasts just to see what people like, see what I like, right? And then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And we put that on a curriculum of sorts. And then we self-educate and we move through that curriculum. And that's at least how I like to do it. And I owe that to Brendan Bouchard and Growth Day, right?
Amazing. Yeah, the power of the spoken word is potent. I just noticing we are coming up on 2 hours here. And so I have 3 more questions I'd love to get through here. And we're on topic a little bit back and we've strayed a little bit, but I think it'll be easy to come back. The first one is, in your experience, what is the ultimate metaphysical nature of the universe?
What is the ultimate metaphysical, what of the universe?
Nature of the universe.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like, if we take away all of the physical, the bodies, all of this stuff that we can see and touch and feel and hear, like what's underneath it? Like what is it that makes all this stuff?
Well, I've had my I've had my psychedelic experiences in the past, And I've had my out of body experiences, my float tanks, and my meditations. And I know I did 24 hours in an ice cave and meditating and a number of other things like that. And the most profound one would probably be sober, float tanks, out of body experience, serious deep inner work to get out of the body. And that would lead me to believe that we had put ourselves here for some type of experience, right? And so, my thoughts on it are that we're here having an experience that we have probably curated in some sense. I've heard that we're all the same energy. I don't know if I buy that. I don't feel like the girl I'm kissing, you know what I mean? Like I just don't, I don't think so, right? But I do believe that we're here because we've decided there's some lesson that we wanted to experience or learn. And I hope I didn't pick this stuff on purpose, but I probably did, right? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful life. It's a painful life, but it's beautiful, So that's what I would say. Is I would say we're probably energetic beings who have decided to define that down to an experience, and the only way to truly have that experience is to come down here, get born, and have a finite life, and you've got a certain amount of time to learn it. And if you ever feel like lessons repeat themselves until you learn them, I think that's why. And that higher power, I think there's a chance it's you, right? I think there's a chance it's you. I think there's a chance that it's you who placed you here kind of you. That's who you're talking to. And I think that's why also sometimes when you don't learn lessons, they get more painful because, you're sitting there going, nope, you don't have it yet. All right, here, we'll kick you in the face a little bit. And
4x4.
At a certain point here, you'll get it. And if you don't get it, then it's like, hey, you need to learn this, right? It's going to get harder. It's going to get rougher. You need to learn this, right? And who but yourself would treat you like that?
Amazing. I love it. Okay, the next one is, if everything were taken from you, all of your possessions, all of your skill sets, everything that makes you you, and you got to keep one thing. It could be a skill set, a belief, a piece of clothing, whatever. What would you keep and why?
We're not talking about people and stuff. We're talking about my stuff, right? My experiences. Which part of Tyler would I keep, or what know-how or knowledge would I keep?
Yeah, or you could keep your video editing monitor.
Yeah, I mean, if it really included everything, I'd probably keep my family, right? But if we're talking about a reset, about going back and trying again and remembering one thing, I'd probably keep the lessons I've learned the most recently, right? Because they're accumulation of all the other lessons. Like, wouldn't it be great to be 20 years old and know that you can't help other people unless they want to help themselves, right? Save me a ton of time, man. So, or that it's worth loving people, no matter how much it hurts when they leave, right? Like, it is just worth loving your dog as much as you can love a dog, even though your dog's going to die. Just take the pain, man. Just take it. It is worth fully giving yourself over to the projects you're involved in. It is worth fully giving yourself over to the love of your life, even if it means you're vulnerable and they're going to break your heart. And they're probably gonna. The stats say it's coming, so maybe you get lucky, but it's probably a pretty good chance it's going to go wrong. And it happens, and still just lean into it and love with all your heart, because every ounce of that pain is worth it. It's worth it. So I'd probably keep that. I'd probably keep the reminder to go all in.
Beautiful. Thank you. The last question that I have is, which parts of who you are today and like what makes you you and what makes you so joyful to be yourself, which of those parts were formed by hardship and necessity and which were formed by conscious choice?
Jesus. Good question. Good question. I am as kind and happy as I am because of hardship. I've been there. I've had some bad experiences. I don't want other people to have to experience those things. So, yeah, that's why I'm kind. That's why I'm good to other people. When I remember to be happy and joyous, that was a conscious choice. Learned that I had that kind of control. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know it was a choice, right? I didn't know that your headspace and your mindset was a choice. Learning that, actually, that's the one thing I'd keep. Just going back, that's the one thing I'd keep. I'd keep not believing the understanding that you shouldn't believe all your thoughts. I have a really funny way of explaining this. Okay, I was talking to a younger guy the other day, and he goes, he's not depressed. But he feels depressed. He's sad, and he's bitter, and he's resentful, and all the rest of it. And I'm talking about this with him, and he's going, and I'm talking Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Okay, like learn to see your thoughts, learn to see the guy seeing your thoughts, learn to see the watcher seeing the guy seeing your thoughts. Learn some mindfulness techniques so that you don't listen to and trust all your thoughts. Okay. And so he goes, none of this makes any sense to me. And I said, you ever drive a car down the road and you think if I just turned my hand a few inches to the left like that comedian used to say, I'd be famous, I'd be all over the news, and I probably wouldn't have to worry about the same things I have to worry about right now? And he laughs and he goes, yeah. And I said, well, you don't listen to those ones, so why do you listen to the ones that call you a loser? Right? Like, we give weight to thoughts that are not you, man. They're just thoughts. And there's so many random thoughts. If I listen to my thoughts, the whole fucking planet would be on fire. Okay? Like, it's...
Word.
I would just burn it all down by accident, impulsively, because some part of the mammalian part of my brain is trying to protect itself, and it thinks the way to do that is to light the building on fire. It's like, don't listen to any of them. To any of them. You are not your thoughts. You are not the constant wave of stressors and anxieties and things that are running through your head. And not only that, believe it or not, it's like a VCR, or aging myself here. It's like a VCR on repeat, and for everybody under 30 years old, it is like a song on repeat. I sat in a cave in Hoodoo Canyon, a little ice pocket. I had to crawl in on my belly, and it was very much a challenge by choice. I didn't want to do it, but then some mentor said challenge by choice. And it was like, you're here to grow. See what you're going to do, right? And he literally said to me, he goes, none of the stuff we do around here scares you, and we're supposed to put you in situations where you're scared. And the only time I've ever seen you scared is when you try and sit by yourself with no distractions. And that's because at that stage in my life, I was controlled by my thoughts, right? I believed everything that went through my head. And I slowly, through hard work, conscious decision, spent more time with myself. It started with 15 minutes on the side of a river. And then it spent 6 hours. And then it was camping by myself for 10 hours. And I graduated to a nice pocket. Had to crawl in on my stomach and sat there with a candle and a bottle of water. I noticed the story's about 45 minutes long, right? And so it played 16 times that day. And somewhere around number 8, I realized what was happening. And I went, wait a second, we already thought this through. I've been through this. And I put it down, like meditating, like letting it go. And then it popped up again. And it started. And it was like a fucking song on repeat. It was almost word for word. And that was when I realized this is just one of many. Like, this is just my fears talking, my anxieties talking, my dad talking, my bully talking, my this talking, my that. Like, that's not you. Those are just thoughts. And when you can start to see them, you can start to separate from them. And then you can start to live and experience the now and stay out of your head. Right.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible build up, lead up, and kind of circle back to touch on a lot of those key points that we were chatting about before. So I'm curious at the end here, and just curious if there's anything that you are wanting to share, burning desires, that sort of thing, anything we didn't cover that you feel is important about any of these topics or any other topics on your mind.
You know, it's always interesting having long conversations with you, Cyril, because we talk about real stuff, right? We're going to talk about, reality, and we're going to talk about, thought process and pain and suffering and happiness, who you are and how'd you get there, and that type of thing. And that's what's missing. That's what's missing, right? That's what everybody needs, is just more time to sit down and talk. And I know part of the conversation was about, AI and the robots and, why the community and why people matter. And I mean, that's why, right? That's why. Shared experience. How has it been for you? Yeah, and we learn and we're conditioned to say, fine, I'm fine. I'm okay. Things are good. And as if that like layer of kind of masculine toughness is going to protect us, and when it's your Uber driver or your dentist, sure, there's social norms. When he asks you how you're doing, he doesn't actually care. You're supposed to say I'm fine and keep going. But, which is a lesson hard learned, right? Like, you got to learn that one too. But your dentist doesn't give a shit, right? He's just there to fix your teeth, and you're just like one of 100 guys in the chair. But when you get a chance to sit down with people that are important to you, or you get a chance to sit down with people that are willing to go deeper, it's a blessing, because that's how we figure things out, right? That's how we understand things. And you don't have to agree with my entire perspective. Maybe there's something I say that means something to you. And without sitting down with you and having this conversation, I'm just going through the actions. Yeah, going through the actions of self-development and growth and this and that, but I'm still just going through the actions. When else do I get to tell that story about finding that walking stick? Or talk about the cave, or talk about seeing my thoughts and realizing that I wasn't them. And, these are things that I've experienced over 17, 18 years. And, bringing it all together in a 1-hour conversation, I mean, I hope people can see that there's a lot there, and that there's a opportunity there, but also, like, this stuff does not happen fast. And so it's very rare that it all gets to come up and talked about. So thanks for the opportunity. I'm just happy to be here. The only thing I will say, shameless plug, if you need help with your sales and marketing, business growth, and you're established, we don't do a ton of startups anymore, but if you've got a cool one, I'm willing to talk about it. Check out According to Plan Sales and Marketing out of Calgary, Alberta, or atpsalesandmarketing.com. And you'll be able to book right on my website. And phone my AI bot if you've never talked to an AI employee. She'll talk you through what we do and what we don't. And I just hope everybody enjoys themselves and has a good life.
Amazing. You headed up my follow-up closer question was where everybody can connect with you or get involved with the projects and the mission that you're doing. I'll make sure to put those all in the notes. Is there any other tags or links you would want in there?
Yeah, you know what? We just started building out our social media in the last year here. So, at Tyler Fick, at ATP Sales and Marketing. You'll see the Tyler Fick one posting in there. But find us on social media and give us a like, follow, comment. if you're open to a conversation, I've got a podcast I'd love to have you on, Cyril, but also for any of my guests that would like a conversation. I do not charge to do strategy. I do not charge to come up with concepts. If there's something in that strategy you'd like me to action, you'll pay me to do that. So, if you need to hash something out, I'm always open for a call. Coffee's always free. And, it's always a good day to grow. So it's always a good day to give me a call and have those conversations.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Tyler, and I look forward to catching up with you more this weekend.